Hello there, it's me, Sari, here again, and today I thought I'd give it another go showing you how to work this electric die cutting and embossing machine called eBosser, and that one comes from Craftwell actually. So as I told you, it's completely electric and it has got only one button which you just switch before you're going to put in your dies and embossing folders and such, and you just switch it off easily as that. I'm going to keep it by my side to the left here because then I can have the surface free and the dies can actually freely go out there, and you can see how well this machine works. This bugger weighs approximately 6.8 kilos, so of course it is pretty heavy, but since it is so sturdy and wonderful, I just love it. And I'm actually keeping this one at the end of my working space because then it's out of the way but still in function. And no, that's about that. And as for the plates and everything that comes with this, just going to show you. These are big plates, as you can see. These are 8.5 by 11 inches, and that is A4 size. So we've got the plates A, B, C, D and E, and then you've also got a big embossing folder for an A to A4 sized paper. And then there is of course this embossing mat, which tends to gather quite a lot of paper dust, but that's nothing you can do about it really, you just have to endure it. And well, the good thing about this machine is that it has got something that's called stop and reverse function. That is, if you were to put too much stuff between the plates, the machine would start, sense it and actually reverse it. So you needn't worry about damaging your machine or getting your plates stuck in or anything like that. I actually managed to jam the machine, and then I looked or searched the web for solutions, and I found that you could use a rubber hammer and just gently tap from the back. So instead of working from this side, of course it would be more difficult, you need to actually get it out again. So just tap it gently with that rubber hammer and you'll get it out. So you needn't fret about anything, even if you were to get them stuck. And if there would be a problem that you can't solve with that rubber hammer, well, I suppose you just have to get in contact with the Craftwell. I don't think it's more difficult than that. And what else is there? Well, I think I'll just go on and see how far I can get with this tutorial, and I think I'll start with the thin dies. I have prepared something just to save us some time, and well, let's see where we're going to get with this. I'm going to use a die, a honeycomb die from Cherry Lynn, and I'm just going to look at what kinds of dies I'm going to need for the thin. I'm going to need D, C, B, not E. This E is a thin shim that you can actually use when you're using a bit more intricate dies as the ones from Cherry Lynn or perhaps Memory Box or something like that. I'll talk to you about that later. So I'm going to confirm this D, C, B, the die itself and the paper facing it, and then having the die side or the knife blade side upwards facing the cutting plate A. Make sure your sandwich is nice and straight there. You might want to use just a little bit of glue since the paper is a little bit smaller than the die. I think I'll just be safe, rather safe than sorry, eh? So I'm just going to try to put it in center and hope for the best. So the A goes like so. I'm just going to turn it on like that, stack up the sandwich and put it in. And as you can see, this die is absolutely a dream to work with because it's so easy to die cut it. You just have to poke these out gently, and then you've got a wonderful web or net or something like that. So I love this octagon or honeycomb sort of net dies. Wonderful. And it isn't hard either to get it from this die. So when it comes to regular easy looking dies, you're not going to have any problem whatsoever. See if I can just put this one away. So when it comes to more intricate dies then, I mean this one is from Cherry Lin, and as you can see from the holes on the back side, there are quite a few small pieces of paper that are going to be poked out later. Now, since I know that this is an intricate die, I am going to put the shim in between the thick plates, that is the C and the D plate. The instructions tell me to do so, and I am not one to play around with that. I gather it could be warped or something if I wasn't to obey that. So I've just put that extra shim there, and as you see, it has cut really nicely. Just going to show you. It has cut evenly. So let's see what happens when I take it away. So the tape is good to keep there, because then I can see that if it hasn't die cut properly, I could actually just run it through once more. Now we come to the tricky part, and that is actually just to get that paper off. Just by bending the die, you can actually get it off easily as that. And you see, some of the small pieces are going to loosen from by themselves, and some I actually have to poke out. Now, if I were the type of person who didn't like to poke out too many of these small things, I could do as I have done with these dies. This one is a small die with lots of wonderful cogs, gadget gears if you want to. And here is a wonderful old school, old-time bicycle die from Memory Box. And these come grey as they are, but I decided on putting on some self-adhesive foam in order to not have to poke out all the small details. So I'm just going to see if I can manage die cutting both of these at the same time, really. You know, sometimes you think that, oh, I'm stressed for time and I want to get this over and done with, and you might want to feel inclined to put all your dies at the same time. Well, that case could work sometimes, but sometimes perhaps it doesn't work. And that's when I think that rather than stress and have half an hour of work of actually jamming the plates back, I might as well just take them two or something like that. Let's see if this works. As you hear, the machine stops by itself. It's a good thing, isn't it? And I remembered forgetting to take away the shim. Well, it could have been a good idea when it comes to die cutting these bicycles. You see, it's so easy to take away all these intricate details. So instead of having a shabby looking bicycle, actually get those really crisp cuts. So that's something I can recommend you to do. I'm going to show you what the first one looked like when I hadn't put on the shim or the foam yet. Now I have to struggle, and actually I'm afraid I'll break this bicycle, so that's a really good tip. If you can get hold of it, buy it. And as for these cogs, the same thing goes for them. Usually they are really easy to just poke out like this. So it's a good thing actually that I forgot that shim in between those plates, because then it's easy for me to die cut these. So let's see, now I'm going to die cut something a bit more easy going. I'm going to die cut this heart from Spellbinders. So I put it on a piece of paper and I taped it because I'm going to do some distressing later. And this time, instead of putting it towards that fabric looking surface, I'm going to put it on the back side, on this slate surface, could you say that? Even surface, because then I'm actually able to do a bit of stamping if I want to in the center in more easier fashion than on this one, because that one is uneven. So let's see if I can make this work. And right now the plates are stuck here, so it's a good thing. So they're actually keeping them there until I'm ready to continue crafting. Just going to turn that one over. I needn't have done that. You see, now it has cut really nicely, and I'm going to keep the tape there. But when it comes to dry embossing this, I'm going to need my DCB, the die and the paper and the black embossing mat on top of that. Let's hope I'll make it work. Just going to make myself a sandwich there. And the one thing you are going to notice with this black mat is that it's really electric. It's going to stick to your paper and everything. And that is the reason why it's going to gather so much of the paper dust there. But, I mean, it works, so there's nothing to worry about. So now you see, it's a good thing I kept that those pieces of tape there, because now I'm going to do a little bit of distressing on this in order to get this result. So I'm going to use green on green. I'm going to keep the monochromatic theme here, and all I do really is I could go with the point of this blending tool. I mean, this is a blending tool that Tim Holtz has taken out for this product, and I'm just going to work softly but sort of giving it a little bit of pressure, otherwise there will be nothing happening. And instead of having those sharp edges from the tape, I think I'll just lift it up, because I do want that green color to go. So this is the drawback of either putting this one here and try to remove the color or the paint. Let's see if I can zoom in to show you this better. So there are some tricks to working with this distressing tool or blending tool. You're going to work in a circular motion from outside of the die inwards, and then you can just have even pressure and work it in. So it's a good thing I actually made this mistake, because now you can admire the first one I did without thinking about what I was supposed to do. That one actually succeeded. So now you've got one color here in the center. You could be brave and you could go for a darker color if you wanted to hide those ugly marks. So I'm going to go for some pine needles. It is also a green color, but it's a little bit darker. So let's see what happens when I try to work it around the edges here. So there it went. So that's why it's a good thing to actually keep the tape in place, but you need to put it in places where it doesn't interfere with the pattern you are trying to enhance. And I could try working with perhaps a little lighter green as well in the center. And since I'm working with a lighter, I could actually go over the darker without destroying anything really. Well, I'm not sure if that's going to be anything fantastic. Well, it's alright, isn't it? It could be difficult to stamp on it right now, but you see the difference on the textured side, which is this one, and on the even surface there. So it's a nice way actually of getting more from your Spellbinders dies. They are 3-in-1 functioning dies really. Just try to get as much of the green color from my fingers as possible. So now, those were the thin dies. So now it's time to try on the half thick dies. I seem to have misplaced my slimmer. No, I haven't actually. I found them. Well, I'm not going to bother about these at all now, am I? I'm not sure if I can make the cutting plates from the Big Shot to work with this one. So I need to stick with the ones that I've got now. So I'm going to use with the half thick dies, and this is a Sizzlets die from Sussex, and the same thing goes for dies from Cuttlebug. You need to pay attention to what dies to use. So you're going to need the D plate, the C plate, the die itself, and some kind of a material. It could be paper, it could be funky foam, it could be thin wood even. So I'm going to put that there, turn the machine on. Oh my goodness, I need to think about here now, because you know I'm going to keep that in the center, and I'm just going to put that funky foam in the center as well. So in that case I'll make sure everything's going to fit in the machine width-wise. So let's see what happens. So let's see how this worked. And since this is a material that actually flattens out really nicely, there's no problem whatsoever using it, and you can also take these things out really easily. So in this case you could actually use some kind of corrugated paper even, or perhaps even leather with those. I'm not sure, it must be thin leather I suppose. And then it's time to move on to a bit thicker dies. Here is a die from Tim Holtz. It's called Weathered Clock, and I'm using a paper That is a double. I've just folded it in half really. So I'm going to need the C plate, the die, the material and the A plate. So I'm not going to use the D. That one goes to rest. And I'm going to cut this. So with these dies, you can see how easily it cuts. You don't have to poke out anything really. It just falls out easily. And even the small intricate pieces actually just are easy to poke out like that. So when it comes to the big dies, it's really easy to work with. Just going to get rid of this. And let's see now. I'm going to show you what it will be like if I'm going to die cut a piece of plastic here. I'm going to do the same thing using the C plate, the die and a piece of plastic here. This is the fun part, I think, because now you can start using your rubbish, garbage and start making wonderful creations with them. So when it comes to the thick dies and they are not as big as the plates, you might have to help getting it out from the machine. And as for the plastic, well, you mustn't use too thick a plastic because you might have to struggle getting it out. But as you can see, it's really nice looking. Now you could actually use some alcohol ink on this and make it into something spectacular. So those were the thick dies, and now I'm going to show you a little bit about dry embossing. As I told you before, the machine comes with a wonderful big embossing folder like that, but I thought I'd play around with some different ones. Here I have used a white piece of coordinations paper, which I have sprayed with homemade ink sprays actually from Tim Holtz's re-inker bottle. So I've used Mowed Lawn and Salty Ocean, and my thought is using this birch texture folder, I'm going to make something nice when I'm going to use a sandpapering tool. So let's see, I'm going to do some dry embossing with an envelope. So I'm going to need D, C, the embossing folder and the paper and the A. So let's hope for the best. There must be something missing. Oh, must there? Because now my intention is actually to get back that white from those birch trees. I'm not sure if this is the right tool. I was hoping I would find my sandpapering tool, but you know, in this way I can actually get up the white from the paper again. So I'm not going to be able to make it work now because I can't find my sandpapering block here, but I hope you can understand what I'm driving at. Another nice thing with this machine is that you can actually start using really big embossing folders. And here I've got yet another piece of coordinations paper. Let's see what happens. some papers the pattern actually comes out by itself without me having to do any sanding. Let's see if I can make the other side of this tool help me out a little. Let's see if I can zoom in as well as I'm doing this. You see? It looks rather nice, doesn't it? So that's the benefit of embossing folders, I think. I'm going to do one more thing. And that is using a piece of paper that I have coated with some aluminum tape. And I'm going to make this into something nice, I hope. I'm going to need the A, turn that one on, and hope for the best. Yet once more. So when it comes to embossing folders, I must say I'm a fanatic using them. This one I'm going to paint with some acrylic paint, and then I'm going to use some Inca Gold shimmer paste on top and just try to make this into a wonderful piece of art, really. And if you don't want to put aluminum tape on your papers, you could end up with something like this. If you're going to use your distress tools, or perhaps just spray these papers as I have done. I actually sprayed them before I embossed them, and then after that I used some archival ink. I just rubbed the ink pad on top of the surface, and this is what I ended up with. So this is my tutorial of how to use the eBosser. I'm very pleased with the machine. I hope you are as well. Please have a try at it if you have a chance whenever you go into a craft shop or something like that. I'm going to sign off right now. Bye bye. Have a nice time.